This is 106.7, Wilmington's Big Talker, wilmingtonbigtalker.com, and my name is Paul Vallone. I would like to welcome you to Guns, Politics, and Freedom, where each Sunday at 5 p.m. as part of the Sunday Night Political Power Block, we give you the ammunition you need to better defend your gun rights. In case you aren't familiar with me, I direct Grassroots North Carolina, or GRNC, since 1994, our state's most effective gun rights organization. As its director, I was involved in drafting and passing our original concealed handgun law. Since then, GRNC has gone on to engineer passage of concealed handgun reciprocity, our purchase permit bypass, Castle Doctrine and Stand Your Ground, the expansion of concealed carry into state and municipal parks, restaurants, public assemblies, educational properties, and, frankly, much more. Grassroots North Carolina is exactly what the name implies, a grassroots collection of people from all walks of life who share a common concern that our constitutionally guaranteed freedoms are being eroded. Check us out at grnc.org. That's grnc.org. Along those lines, I'm going to need your help. We have been working to pass House Bill 746, which would establish permitless concealed carry, which would free you from the burdens of having to obtain the state-mandated training and pay all the fees for courses and permits in order to carry a firearm for self-protection and for the protection of your family. We've gotten it through the North Carolina House, I'm happy to say, but we are stalled in the Senate. Now, the Senate goes in for a special session in September, and then again they go into the second year of their two-year session in January, and we need this bill to pass this year, otherwise it's dead. House Bill 746 would also keep the concealed handgun permit system intact so that you could have reciprocal rights with other states, so that you could bypass our purchase permit system, and so that you could carry in sensitive areas such as restaurants, educational properties, or public assemblies of people. But we need you to contact Senator Phil Berger. In just a moment, I'll have the information here. My apologies. Senator Phil Berger is the President Pro Tem of the Senate, and he is the one responsible for making sure that this bill gets a committee hearing. So we want you to contact Senator Phil Berger at 919-733-5708. Again, 919-733-5708. And you can also email him at phil.berger, that's B-E-R-G-E-R, at ncledge.net. Phil.berger, spelled B-E-R-G-E-R, at ncledge.net. Tell him that it's time to give House Bill 746 a committee hearing and to do the work that voters sent them to do. Our topic today is the real lesson of Charlottesville. Unlike many others who feel free to comment out of ignorance or wishful thinking, I have actually spent days researching what happened in Charlottesville, Virginia, and what it means for mainstream Americans going forward. So step right up, Mr. and Mrs. America, and take a front row seat for what I can only describe as the balkanization of America. Now, unless you live under a rock, you know about the clash between what the media loves to call the alt-right and the groups of violent leftists from Black Lives Matter, Antifa, and others, resulting in the murder of Heather Heyer last weekend in Charlottesville, Virginia. You've probably heard, or you've probably seen the video of communists and anarchists from the Triangles People's Assembly, Workers' World Party, Industrial Workers of the World. You would think that after all those associations with communism, they would ditch the worker name, but whatever. And, of course, the Democratic Socialists of America, and, of course, that ever-present Antifa, as they toppled and destroyed the Confederate statue right here in Durham. And you're probably sick to death of the media carping about which statutes commemorating Confederate figures need to be removed or about Baltimore and other cities quietly removing them to avoid inflaming what Donald Trump correctly named the alt-left. But none of those things should be considered the central lesson of the Charlottesville debacle and the left-wing feeding frenzy in its wake. Forget about whether those statues represent the history of states' rights or that of slavery. Forget for a moment the cowardice of Republicans and business leaders alike as they run for cover. Forget about the media jackal pack and its incessant biting at the ankles of the President of the United States. And even forget about the hypocrisy of trying to blame the debacle on Trump when, during the Obama administration, the left was quite silent about the Black Panthers as they practiced open voter intimidation with baseball bats at voting polls in Philadelphia, or when Black Lives Matters rioted and looted in Ferguson, Baltimore, and other places, including right here in North Carolina in Charlotte. Nope, as I'll talk about later, never assume any part of the political process is honest. In this case, the left's selective outrage is just another example of Rahm Emanuel's principle that good leftists should never let a crisis go to waste. Moreover, outrageous as these things may be, they pale by comparison to the fractionalizing of our political debate, our citizens, and our country. Initially, Democrats and a few self-proclaimed Republicans, and I use that word in quotes, thrashed Trump for having failed to denounce extremists enough, or for having failed to name what cause motivated Heather Heyer's murder. Now, never mind that nobody, including Trump, knew for sure what the murderer's motivations were until days after the crime. Never mind that Trump loudly and clearly denounced extremist violence. Oh, and never mind that in similar circumstances, Barack Obama, faced with terrorist killings at Fort Hood by a killer who was screaming, Allahu Akbar, there's a pretty good sign, Barack Obama never attributed the killings to anything more serious than, and I quote, workplace violence. So here we are, Tuesday. The president continued steadfastly in the face of cowards in his own party who refused to stand with him, and equally cowardice heads of corporations who quit his advisory council rather than face the potential fallout from leftists. And Trump continued to maintain that both sides were responsible for the violence, and that, in fact, counter-protesters were very violent. Yes, he specifically denounced the KKK and the neo-Nazis. But was he right in saying counter-protesters were violent? Did they, in fact, produce the violent clashes between these groups? As, by the way, we will see police stood by doing nothing. The question being, is the alt-right the solely responsible for the violence in Charlottesville, or is it shared? Now, let's ignore those on the right who said that counter-protesters showed up to attack with, I believe the quote was, mace, pepper spray, bricks, sticks, and foul liquids. I don't even want to know what foul liquids are, as they have at other demonstrations. Instead of listening to the right, let's see if Trump was correct by looking at accounts of witnesses on the left. Specifically, and helpfully, the Los Angeles Times, not exactly a bastion of conservatism by any means, ran a piece called Who Was Responsible for the Violence in Charlottesville? Here's what the witnesses say. Now, we're going to hear about that after our break, and we'll find out who really started all the violence in Charlottesville. Meanwhile, my name is Paul Vallone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom. Today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, WilmingtonBigTalker.com. We are talking about the real lessons of the debacle in Charlottesville and its aftermath. So join us after the break as we resume Guns, Politics, and Freedom. My name is Paul Vallone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7 WilmingtonBigTalker.com. Today we are talking about the real lessons of the debacle in Charlottesville, Virginia, and its aftermath. But first, I need you to do something. We are working on passing House Bill 746, which would establish permitless concealed carry in North Carolina, and would also keep the permit system intact and clean up issuance of concealed handgun permits for those who still choose to get them in order to bypass the purchase permit system or to carry in sensitive areas such as restaurants, educational properties, and public assemblies of people, and also for reciprocal rights with other states. But we know for a fact that we've had problems with sheriffs obstructing concealed handgun permits. This would actually get rid of many of the obstructions and free up permit issuance and shorten permit issuing times. So what we need you to do is to call the President Pro Tem of the Senate, Senator Phil Berger, because this bill is tied up right now in the Senate, and it needs a committee hearing, because if it does not get a committee hearing by the end of the second year of the two-year session, the bill will be DOA. So I need you to call Senator Phil Berger, and if you got a pen handy, it's 919-733-5708. Again, 919-733-5708, or you can email him at Phil, P-H-I-L, Phil.Berger, Berger being spelled B-E-R-G-E-R, at ncleg.net. Phil.Berger at ncleg.net. What I want you to tell them is that it's time for Republicans to do what gun voters sent them to Raleigh to do, and to give a prompt committee hearing to House Bill 746 to pass it and send it back to the House if necessary for a concurrence vote so we can get this thing on the governor's desk, after which I'm sure we'll have to worry about overriding a veto by our fine Governor Cooper, but I have every confidence we can do precisely that. So call Senator Berger right now and tell him he needs to give a committee hearing to House Bill 746. Now, before our break, I asked whether Donald Trump was right when he said, and he was roundly denounced for this, when he said that both sides were responsible for the violence in Charlottesville. Again, a remark for which he has been roundly denounced as a liar and a racist. So let's ignore those on the right who said the counter-protesters showed up armed, as they have at other demonstrations. I always like to rely on the words of the left, because when they are forced to admit something, it can no longer be denied. So let's look and see what the leftists have had to say about those demonstrations. As I said before the break, helpfully, the Los Angeles Times ran a piece called "Who Was Responsible for the Violence in Charlottesville?" Here's what the witnesses say. Let us first consider the words of leftist Jordan Green in a publication called The Nation, who said that the white separatists, and this is a quote, commanded the steps of the southeast corner of the park, repelling attempted, I want you to listen to this word now, attempted incursions by wobblies. I love that. That's a nickname for the industrial workers of the world. Communists. My name is Paul Vallone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, wilmingtonbigtalker.com. Today we are talking about the real lessons of the debacle in Charlottesville and its aftermath. But first, I am going to get you to call the President Pro Tem of the North Carolina Senate. I need you to contact him and let him know that House Bill 746 needs a committee hearing, that Republicans need to do what gun voters sent them to Raleigh to do. House Bill 746 would establish permitless concealed carry, and it would also leave the permit system intact, clean up issuance for concealed handgun permits, and also do some other great stuff for gun owners, and essentially let you better protect yourself and your family. So what I need you to do is I need you to call Senator Phil Berger at 919-733-5708. Again, 919-733-5708, or email him at phil.berger, spelled P-H-I-L .berger, B-E-R-G-E-R, at ncleg.net. phil.berger at ncleg.net. Let him know that House Bill 746 needs to pass promptly from the Senate because time will be limited in the upcoming session of the General Assembly, and if it does not pass this year, the bill is dead on arrival. Now, in our previous segments, we examined what actually happened in Charlottesville, and specifically how the left actually incited at least some, if not all, of the violence in Charlottesville. One thing I had forgotten to bring up, since we're taking the words of the left on their own, role in the events, let's look at that bastion of leftism they call the Washington Post, and specifically a piece entitled "Fear of Violent Left Preceded Events in Charlottesville." And it details how the, rights who demonstrated expected and warned about violence on the part of the left before this even took place, and how actually some of this is even recorded on the videos that some of the right-wingers put out there. So I guess the next question I have is, where were the police? Now, could it be that when the police have intervened in demonstrations elsewhere, or have attempted to, stop crimes by the violent left, they have been so thoroughly excoriated, so thoroughly, denounced for just doing their jobs, that they actually just sat back and did nothing? I don't know, just a theory. I could be wrong. But however the left works to suppress political speech with which it disagrees, it effectively creates a system of censorship in America, whether it's on the job or college campuses or even on a street corner. If you speak the truth, expect to be punished financially, intellectually, and even physically. So, at the risk of such punishment, let me say it again. However reprehensible their message, the white supremacists demonstrating in Charlottesville were the ones who lawfully exercised their First Amendment right to deliver speech, however unpopular, hateful, or disgusting that speech may be. They were the ones with the permit. They were the, equally, it was the alt-left, the various communist workers' parties, the fascists of the, and I love this Orwellian name, the Antifa movement, the anti-fascist movement, who is in fact fascist. And of course, the racists of the Black Lives Matter movement. These people bear the brunt for the brunt of the blame for the violence in Charlottesville. They were the ones without the permit. They were the ones doing the confronting. They were the ones who attacked demonstrators. Do not underestimate the left and the extent to which what they will do in order to marginalize you, or how they will will again exploit tragedy for political gain. According to a tweet by, and this is a congresswoman, okay, U.S. Representative Kathleen Rice, a Democrat of New York, if you're an NRA member, you are a, and I quote, national security threat. Or you can look at the Huffington Post headline, which says the NRA is complicit in stoking the white nationalist violence. Or if you support Dana Lash, who in a hard-hitting NRA ad called for fact-checking the perennially leftist and lying New York Times, expect to hear that you are guilty of hate speech. You know, anyone who knows me knows that I've had some problems with the NRA in the past. But I'm here to tell you that with respect to these ads, I am proud to be an NRA Life member. Then, of course, we had the New York Times again, who is now claiming that justifiable homicides are disproportionately represented by race. Here, let me pull up this. Let's see. Killings of blacks by whites are far more likely to be ruled justifiable. I can see it now. We're going to have a racial test when you get to court for killing somebody who was trying to kill you, who was attacking you violently. Now, I guess the idea that perhaps the majority of the original attackers were actually minorities, that's not possible in the eyes of the New York Times. So, once again, we have the gun control organizations who are dancing in the blood of victims before those victims get buried. We have Michael Bloomberg's AstroTurf organization that he calls Every Town for Gun Safety. Okay, all 6 of them and their hired demonstrators. They wasted little time claiming that, quote, approximately 8,000 hate crimes a year involve a firearm, more than 20 each day. And reports indicate that hate crimes are on the rise. But in most of the United States, there is no law prohibiting people convicted of violent hate crimes from having guns. It is more important than ever that states and the federal government pass laws ensuring that people who commit hate crimes are prohibited from having guns. Of course, I guess they're oblivious to the utter irony that under Virginia law, everybody on both sides of the Charlottesville melee had guns. They were all armed to the teeth, but the only violence that ensued resulted from a motor vehicle. I bet we cannot expect to see a call for motor vehicle control from every town from gun safety anytime soon. So, I guess lesson number 1 from Charlottesville is this. We conservatives don't have to develop a dialogue in America, as has been suggested so often. That's been tried, and the left has spent decades rubbing your nose in your own honesty. This isn't about polarizing American politics. It is a strategy being applied by our enemies to end our American way of life. Stop apologizing. No matter how much you apologize, it will never be enough, and frankly, it can't be justified. As conservatives, we are no more responsible for the actions of the KKK than Barack Obama was for the murders committed by Black Lives Matter supporters. Well, maybe that isn't such a hot example. So stop thinking that the purge of the monuments to American history has anything whatsoever to do with slavery. In his comments, Trump asked whether George Washington and Thomas Jefferson would be the next statues purged. Well, it's already happening. Demands are being made for removal of a statue of George Washington, yes, George Washington, from a park in, well, I guess we should expect this, Chicago. The purge is not about Confederate history. It is about American history. And now that it has begun, you can expect it to accelerate. The fact is that you have been punked by workers' parties and ostensible anti-fascists or whatever, anarchists and communists who with calculation attacked in Charlottesville, all with the intent of destroying our society. So, we're going to take a break right now, but we'll discuss more about that when we come back to Guns, Politics, and Freedom. You are listening to Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, wilmingtonbigtalker.com. I am Paul Vallone, your host for Guns, Politics, and Freedom. My name is Paul Vallone, and you are listening to Guns, Politics, and Freedom today on Wilmington's Big Talker, 106.7, wilmingtonbigtalker.com. And today we are talking about the real lessons of the debacle in Charlottesville and its aftermath. But one more time, I'm going to get you to call Senate President Pro Tem Phil Berger about House Bill 746 to establish permitless concealed carry and improve our concealed handgun permit system. These people are bottling up House Bill 746 in the Senate, and it needs a committee hearing and a floor vote in the next session. So please contact Senator Phil Berger at 919-733-5708. Again, 919-733-5708. Phil.Berger, spelled B-E-R-G-E-R, at ncledge.net. Again, phil.berger at ncleg.net. Now, just before our break, we were discussing how you have been punked, you have been had by the workers' parties and the ostensible anti-fascists, or whatever they're calling themselves today, who with calculation attacked in Charlottesville. I say with calculation because they did so with the intent of destroying our society. Everything you see that's happened since Charlottesville is happened by their design. Why? Because you can't begin building the great socialist utopia until you destroy the existing society which is in place. Indeed, the truth is becoming so obvious that even the New York Times can no longer completely ignore it. After attempting to write off Trump's quote, violence from all sides statement as pandering to his base, they finally admit, albeit derisively, that, and this is a quote, in this version of events, a violent and dangerous left fringe is ignored by news media, who'd have thunk it, ignored by news media that would rather elevate far-right extremism as the nation's more urgent threat. Never happened. This view of the left is unhinged. This is their quote again. This view of the left is unhinged and anarchistic. Anarchistic has become popular with some Republicans who insist that Democrats still refuse to accept Mr. Trump. And it stokes the powerful emotions behind perceptions of excessive political correctness and media bias. This is funny, except that it's true. They actually are trying to promulgate this as some, I guess, extremist theory. So here's a news flash for the New York Times. That so-called version of events is the truth. So here it is, folks. Here's the second lesson of Charlottesville. Back in 1996, during the Clinton era, I wrote an editorial which appeared in the Charlotte Observer under the title Barometer of Discontent. This is when a number of unstable individuals had attempted to breach the White House perimeter. My point was that when stressed by the destruction of orderly society, stable people respond with a ballot. Unstable people, however, respond in unstable ways. But the point is that both are responding to the same noxious destruction of their society. Unfortunately, that's a bit of what we saw in Charlottesville. and what we will undoubtedly see many times in the future. You might not like white separatist groups, but understand that they are responding in their way to the same aggravation you are, namely the deliberate destruction of American society by